I'm Deniese Chinnappen, Technology Portfolio Executive at Bet Software.
And I'm Zandile Mkwanazi, Girlcode CEO.
Welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking, a Girlcode podcast in partnership with Bet Software, where we get to talk about technology and women in Africa. We are really hoping that you are inspired and getting to know more about what we have to show you. Today, we'll be talking about artificial intelligence. Zandile, how excited are you? Because I know I totally am. I can't wait.
I'm excited. Like, everybody's talking about AI and trying to figure out how does it fit in the world that we're currently living in. So totally excited.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you'll notice here that I have this little prop, right? This little guy is a robo-pet. And he was one of my first, this was before I actually got dogs of my own. And I saw this little gadget come out on the internet, and I was extremely excited about the fact that you had a robot type pet. And it was incredibly interesting because, you know, that little guy there, I mean, this is the remote, right? And we'd be able to then just work him out. But he essentially will bark like a dog. He'll run after you. He will even, right, mirror what you do. So he'll do a sit, he'll do a bark. The fantastic part about that little robo-pet was that he would actually also be able to function as a guard dog inside your house.
That's kind of interesting.
Now, Now I want to add that he's probably first generation, which is easily about 16 years ago.
Wow.
Right? And recently, when I visited Dubai at the GTEC Summit, they had these phenomenal new robo-dogs up there that were literally the size of, you know, they came up waist high. Absolutely incredible. There were so many of these things out there. And if we look at AI in general, in terms of where it has come in the last 16 years, I think one of the important things, or one of the really fascinating things for me, has been that if we talk about 16 years ago, I believe that it's actually accelerated even quicker than that. If we look at where something like ChatGPT was a year ago to where it is now, I mean, analysts are actually referring to it as a reinvention. It's almost equivalent to when we first discovered electricity, and then came the internet, and then came, you know, artificial intelligence, Copilot, and all of that progression.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, so I think it's incredible that we are living in this sort of times where we get to experience that level and that degree of intelligent life, of intelligent
I agree.
technology.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is someone like me, I'm not into animals, right? In fact, I'm scared of animals. But if you are saying that I could get a robot dog, now that's something else. That's a game changer, you know? So I think technology and AI is definitely accelerating faster than we could have ever imagined, which brings about different applications that we never even thought about. I mean, you're saying this is 16 years old. Who would have thought that at some point in our lives we would have animals that are built from robots? So it's quite exciting also to see where we are going, and like you say, in the progression where it's getting more and more realistic. Mm-hmm. And to an extent, I think people are a bit scared and skeptical about that, right? Like, will robots replace us? Like, we've seen enough movies like iRobot, where essentially, you know, they've replaced humans and to some extent start controlling us. So that's a bit of a scary side of AI.
Yeah, while we're on that topic, right, you know, again, there's this massive fear they're going to take over your jobs, or robots are going to go dark and robots are going to, you know, take over the world. Yes. What is your take on artificial intelligence, you know, in this sort of robot space world? You know, where do you see AI going in terms of just here in South Africa?
Yeah, for me, you know, AI is more of an extension of humans. That's how I see it. And I think to an extent, that's where we're going. We know, you know, with Elon Musk and the Neuralink and all those exciting and scary things, that at some point, humans will become part of AI, or AI will become part of human. That's kind of where we're going with it. And I think it's about how do we embrace that? How do we make it work for us? instead of being scared of it. Because I saw an interesting documentary, for example, where they're saying with Neuralink, people that couldn't walk before will be able to walk with an assistant of, AI
Yes.
and technology as it's advancing. So I think there's a lot of good applications that can enhance the human experience. And that's how I choose to see it, and not from, being afraid that it'll potentially take over my job or even my life and my human experience, right? We've seen things like AI being like someone's partner. So I think there's quite a lot of applications, and it's just a matter of how do we then utilize it and make sure that it's working for what we want it to work for, and then thinking about who's responsible of putting those policies in place.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something very important there. You gave an example of how it is used as part of biomedical engineering, right?
Yes.
How do we actually bring science and technology together so that we have enhancements and we have a better lifestyle? Now, what other industries do you think we are going to see more and more AI going into? I know that the healthcare certainly are using some of that quite extensively. There's finance as well, because there's a whole lot of AI that sits around the financial and data analysis that happens. But what are some of the other industries, obviously, that you think that AI will come in and start to add and change the game almost in terms of how we engage as human beings?
I think one is definitely entertainment. If you're thinking about VR, and actually, I was exposed to this a couple of years back when I watched an anime, Sword Art Online, where essentially they got into this game with VR and then they got trapped in it because the person who built the game didn't build an exit or a log out. So again, some of the dangers, but I think it enhances the experience of entertainment or gaming, where you can immerse yourself. You could be sitting in your couch, but be in a totally different world, where your mind is experiencing things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to experience. So I think that's an exciting part of it, entertainment, because as humans, we love to be entertained, right? So what better way to make it more accessible and more to the masses than using VR. So I think that's a space that I'm quite excited to see where it goes and how that industry evolves. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, the medical space, of course, there's a lot there. I think also in terms of food, it'd be interesting to see how we can utilize AR to create food that is still nutritionally good, but, can feed the masses. It's something that we struggle with as globally. So there's quite a lot of applications that we can look out for.
You said food, and the image that came to my mind was, now I'm a Star Trek fan, right? I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I've always sort of been dreaming about is, as a working mom, that I would literally be able to go up to this machine, as in Star Trek, and push a button and say, roast chicken with vegetables and gravy. And here we go, it just materializes.
Yeah.
You know what? I always look back at those things and I wonder how much of those series, those sort of programs actually influenced where we are today. I think, if we are looking at AI from the perspective of enhancing where we are going as humanity, as a society, and really not necessarily sort of looking to it from a position of fear and it's taking over my job. I think that there's a lot of value and there's a lot of benefit that we could actually get from that. Have you come across anything and as part of obviously Girlcode or the network of people that you've been working with, where we are seeing, or you are seeing, these benefits coming out from the use of AI?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, right, in general, and also what we've seen is just being able to be more efficient, right, and not spending like long hours trying to do something, taking you 16 hours when in fact, with an AI tool, it could take an hour.
Yeah.
So a lot of automation, right? Like processing simple, repetitive tasks. And we're seeing more and more from like our partners demanding people that have the skill set where they're able to do robotic process engineering. And I think that's something that is still coming up, especially like in the context of South Africa and African continent, where we're still doing a lot of manual, repetitive tasks. And already there are tools that are being used in the West to sort of, get rid of that. And by getting rid of that, it actually opens up and gives us an opportunity to innovate. And I think that's how we should be approaching it. We should be looking at the things that we're doing and saying, how do we like innovate in the space instead of doing something that a robot could easily do? I think another example, maybe this is because there was a whole like Twitter, thing that happened where people were complaining about franchises, like food franchises, putting in, when you go now, instead of going to a cashier, you go to like the screen and you just place your order and then, and like that's and pay on it. People complaining that that's replacing, cashiers and stuff like that. And we've seen even in malls in America where they don't have in a supermarket, you buy it and kind of scans and at the end it just pays. And I think instead of being afraid of losing those jobs, we should be thinking, how do those people make sure that they innovate and also upskill themselves to understand AI and create better things instead of wanting to do the same type of manual jobs where, there's no sort of complex level of thinking. So there's quite a lot of industries that are definitely being disrupted. And for me, that just means that then it opens up space for us to be disruptors and for young people especially to think about using AI to create a better life for themselves.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I know those machines that you talk about, and you walk into like some of the fast food restaurants, that's what you actually see.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's we complain about that takes too long, and then we complain about the fact that we've got to wait for food for so long. So it's almost a case of when you look at AI in that environment, AI is obviously in that instance able to help that particular industry and that restaurant provide you a better service, right? Because the people are actually focused on putting your meal together as opposed to punching all the numbers and taking your card and sorting out the transaction.
Exactly.
Now, again, you mentioned as well, in the industry, how do we use it for innovating? How do we get that? And I want to share something with you, obviously, in terms of where Bet software is. Automation is an absolute must for us. We work in an industry where the betting, the gaming industry never sleeps. It's a 24/7, 365 job, right? But exciting, absolutely exhilarating on all counts. But it does require that we need to get content out all the time, as fast as a consumer is able to use it, to consume those content, right? And so things like your robotic process automation is certainly something that we end up using here. I know that in some of our teams, we do use the technologies and the tools to help get us through our deliveries much quicker, to be able to test at a faster rate. Even ChatGPT as another element, where we're looking at how do we use it as a foundation on which our juniors or even our intermediate level developers are able to focus on developing unit testing. Because for us, if we're able to do, if we're able to have a high quality of unit testing already conducted at a software level, what that kind of really means for us is that you've got better quality code that's going into our quality assurance phase. And, the better code that goes in there, the quicker we can actually get content out, right? So we definitely use a lot of that in our workspace, and obviously, I'm sure the team members use it on a personal level. I've used it myself as well. I've used it for, I had to write a speech that I was asked to give at a wedding, and it came with quite a lot of jokes, but these jokes that almost sort of sounded, they sounded like dad jokes. No offense to the dads, but they sounded like that,
Not
right?
relatable.
Exactly. And after a few iterations, of course, I got to a stage where I was like reasonably happy. And then I still had to do work on it to get it to that punchier sort of level. I know you do a lot of presentations. You meet with so many different people. Do you use ChatGPT or any other tool, obviously, that helps to make life easy for you?
Definitely. I think I use quite a bit of AI tools, ChatGPT being one of them. I think one of the things also is I get interviewed a lot, right? And like you said, I do presentations. And most of the time, the questions are almost similar. It's about my journey, which doesn't change, to be quite honest. But I can't just take the answer I gave one article and just, give to the next. So using it to kind of reword and reframe my answer. But at the end of it, the input is the same. Like, my journey is my journey. It's never going to change. It's just I get asked the same questions all the time. So I'll use, ChatGPT to kind of, how can I rewrite this thing so that it seems fresh and new to somebody else that's reading it, as opposed to, oh, but didn't you already say that? And like you said, there's a lot of other tools that come in handy, especially like for me when I have to do presentations, one of them being Gamma. Which is basically an AI tool to create a presentation for you. So it can quickly, you give it a prompt and it'll quickly create a base presentation. From there, I'm able to play around with it, change the colors, kind of make it fit what I'm looking for. Like you said, the base usually is not, and like the thing also with AI, right? You must ask yourself where that initial data is coming from. And a lot of it is not really African, if I can say that. Right. So you still have to use your own experience and nuances being on this particular continent to put, the right information so that it's relatable when you present it to the next person, as opposed to, and we've seen a lot, like especially on LinkedIn now, like I can always spot a ChatGPT like post, and I don't know, for some reason it likes like using like the icons like the rainbow and the star, and you can always tell that, okay, they just copied from ChatGPT and posted on social media. So it's quite important that we still add our human element into whatever AI tool that we're using. But something else actually, Deniese, if you may, that I thought about is, especially being in the betting or gaming industry, so gambling rather, have you guys, from also kind of people using AI to bet for them, right? And kind of trying to almost cheat the system and win. I don't know if you guys have thought about like counter measurements to that, because the smarter the AIs become, then they're able to predict, right? Playing the lotto, at some point you can create an algorithm that just keeps coming up with numbers until it can say, okay, this is going to make me a billionaire, and I'm sure there's a lot of people thinking about that and thinking, how can I use some of these things to my benefit, which is I don't know if it's a benefit, but winning money, can never say no to that. So I'm just curious, like for Bet Software, if that's something you guys have thought about, and creating AI that counters that, or when do you know that it's not a human that's actually betting, it's actually something that's automated?
Yeah, very good question. So that's certainly something that we have been thinking about for some time. And it actually started with not necessarily just AIs in general. It's, we work in the betting industry. It is what it is, right? Where there's money to be made, there's money to be made. So you're going to have somebody who's out there who's going to take or look at every opportunity in terms of, how do I actually get the most out of this little that I'm putting in?
Yes.
And so, when we talk in aspects of fraud and we talk in aspects of obviously cheating, that's essentially what it is, misrepresentation there. Bet Software is certainly we on it, right? There's a whole lot of monitoring that actually happens behind the scenes as part of being able to determine a play. How is a bet being placed? How quickly is a bet being placed? You have human response times and you have a robot response times, right? Further to that, there's all of these, I'm sure you would have seen things like little capture codes where you've got to identify, all the bicycles in the picture, all of those sort of things. So there's all of these countermeasures that we put in place if at ever, there's a red flag that's been raised somewhere to say that we've got a potential AI sitting on there somewhere. How does it actually work? And then there's processes after that actually follow in terms of what we would do with those particular accounts. Yeah. We don't necessarily want to take a system offline where it now impacts 100% of our user base when we actually only really experiencing a 1.5% user base who's actually coming out from that level of abuse. Yeah. So there are certainly processes, there are measures, there are monitoring pieces in place to identify what this looks like. I know particularly on the casino side of things, again, given the fact that we ourselves would use a certain level of artificial intelligence around automation to simulate certain scenarios, our teams will test for that. They will try and actually break those pieces of code with that kind of frame mind or persona almost in mind, right? Yes. And as such, if we do manage to find a defect, then the next step is how do we actually plug that? But more importantly, how do we then modify and enhance our monitoring to be able to pick it up sooner? Yeah. Because behaviors will change, right? If your artificial intelligence, if your AI has actually been designed to learn and teach itself almost at a self-healing sort of point when you block it from one door to the next, it's going to look for another way. And so we obviously would respond in the same manner. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, because like you said, where there's money, there'll always be people looking for an opportunity to abuse it. And certainly AI has made it almost easier, right? Like you're saying, if you've designed an algorithm that can self-regulate and say, okay, this is not working, what else can I adapt? Then it becomes trickier because then you also have to keep up with that. As soon as it learns, you need to learn and counteract. So it's just sort of interesting also to think of it from that perspective, and how do organizations deal with AI that are trying to break into their systems and are learning. You obviously increasing security, but then it's also learning and trying to find other breaking points. So I just thought that would be interesting also to kind of understand how that particularly works. Yeah.
Yes. No, absolutely. And I think that is where we start talking about what exactly does AI look like from the perspective of the good, the bad, the ugly. Yes. It brings with it these good experiences. It brings with it all of these enhancements that actually help us to work smarter versus harder. But what about all these other things that we don't necessarily know about or we are unawares about? I know often people tend to worry about the fact that there's privacy issues. There's data that's potentially being used, and shared between companies. How does that actually look? How do we as human beings respond to that environment? So let's look at obviously AI at that ethics level. Yeah. What would you say would constitute almost an AI stepping over the line?
Yeah, I think when you were saying that, I was thinking about Siri, right? That at some point, that type of AI gets to know you, your preferences, what you like, what you don't like. Yeah. And because we keep feeding it information about ourselves, the more we tell it, okay, not this music, then the recommendations get better. I mean, even something as simple as if you look at watching Netflix, it starts to understand you and recommends exactly what you would like. If you go onto my Netflix, you'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what she likes. And I think at some point as it evolves, it could get to a point where, because you've set these conditions and this data, and as humans, we change and evolve all the time, right? And it's like, no, actually, I don't like that anymore. Yes, I've liked it for 10 years, but imagine now Siri saying, no, but this is the music you like. And it's like, no, but I don't want to listen to it anymore. And that's a bit like, I think where we need to think about where the ethical line is, as you were saying, because if we keep feeding it all of this information about ourselves, and at some point it imposes things on us that we don't necessarily want, I think that's where, it kind of can get a bit messy. But like we said at the beginning, it evolves, we evolve. And in essence, humans are the ones, building AI. We haven't gotten to a point where AI is like a self-sufficient entity. And hopefully I'm not alive when we get there. I don't want to know what happens. So there's a bit of that. And I think, and that's where I was saying earlier, policies need to be put in place by governments, by corporates. And I think the challenge is it's moving so fast that by the time, a policy is put in place, it's no longer relevant because we've moved past that point. So it's kind of interesting also, maybe from a corporate point of view, like how do you guys keep regulating and making sure that as soon as something like, let's go back to ChatGPT, it's available, it's being used. There's even now Devin, the first software engineer, right? At what point do you then put a policy to say you can't use, or you can up to this degree use Devin if you're doing your work as a software engineer? And then, so as corporate, like how do you keep up with that? Because I know from our side, right, we're trying to train young people to be software developers, and now they're hearing, oh no, there's an AI that will be a software developer and can do it all. So it's a bit challenging in terms of keeping up with advances and changes.
Yeah, I think that's a tricky one for them because the current AI tools that are actually out there that will help you to develop and put together lines of code or a website even for that matter. It starts with the very sort of base model. You still have to add in, the creative elements. You said so yourself. It's actually ourselves who are providing an instruction, giving them guidelines, almost a framework within which an AI needs to respond within in order to make sure that their outcome is achieved. In saying that, you talk about how does Bet Software actually deal with that? I mentioned earlier we have to get content out quick, fast. We try not to do it dirty. We do it well, right? And so we certainly encourage our talented team members to explore those opportunities, to start looking at what are those AIs out there that are actually going to help them work smart, not hard. Yes, we have to do hard work sometimes, but that's more the exception than it is the norm, right? So we don't necessarily have any strict policy that says you cannot use it, but we do encourage, as part of innovating, as part of enhancing what you are doing right now, use that, make use of it out there. It is a really controversial sort of topic, I know, because, as with open source code, you can't necessarily go and grab someone else's code from the website and then, make like one line of code or put a semicolon there or change the variable and then push that out into a production environment where you are earning money of it at a commercial level. That's not how it works. Regulation dictates that it has to have enough of your own IP, of your own creation and innovation in order for it to be something that you could then eventually commercialize. At this point, because there's such a low degree of what something like a chat GPT would actually bring in, and so much of innovation and then creation that's actually happening with our team members, that's certainly not something that we have to worry about right now. And again, it's certainly not necessarily in the heart or the base of what our code actually looks like. It's almost sitting on the supporting and the peripheral side of things, where we make sure that, again, quality code is going out, a good product is going out. But But again, it's certainly something to worry about. I know from the perspective of your people coming out from Girlcode at a junior level, yeah, there's much of a muchness where you actually have a ChatGPT who's able to produce a website for you. And I can certainly see the fear. I can understand the threat there, because as a junior, you're coming in with very limited knowledge and limited experience.
Yes.
But I think the advice that I would give them would be use it, adopt it, understand and see how you could, by virtue of that, enhance your own skill, your own development piece. It's certainly an avenue that allows them to grow and flourish. Who knows what they may end up learning from the AI itself, right? Yeah. But that's certainly a place that I see would add value in, when you're working with your girl coders.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the same for us. We do encourage them to not be afraid, but to utilize tools, right? Explore and see how it can help you. Also, accelerate your learning, which is quite important because, again, we're talking about an industry that's changing constantly. And so you need to keep up. And one way to keep up is just to constantly learn and using tools like ChatGPT. Use it so that you know what's happening in the industry, so that you can quickly accelerate your own, skill set, so that you bring value to whatever organization that you go into. So it's a delicate balance. There is that fear, of course, and coming in with lack of experience and limited knowledge, it's quite easy to be intimidated when you start hearing that, oh, there's an AI software engineer out there that's been developed. What does that mean for me and my job? What value could I bring? Because I could never learn at the same rate as an AI. It's just humanly impossible. That is about, okay, how do I understand it? And then figure out how do I then fit into the ecosystem. So it's quite an interesting topic because there's so much, right? There's so much in these different industries in which AI is going to definitely revolutionize. I think the key thing is, for me as women, we need to be at the forefront of that. We can't sit back and kind of wait for somebody else to create this innovation. AI, now that it's happening, we need to make sure that we are in those rooms so that we give our own sort of perspective and our own knowledge, and make sure that when we talk about software being diverse and inclusive of everybody's experiences, that's kind of what we strive for. We want women to be in those rooms creating AI solutions, kind of bringing in the perspective of, okay, for me, this is my experience and this is how I see it working, so that it's not also sort of monotone, when you're creating all of these things. So I'm excited, to be quite honest. I'm excited about the future and what AI could potentially bring.
Could potentially be.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm picking on something that you've, what you've just said now, which is we need more women in the room. And I'm sure you're going to know who I'm talking about, but we obviously, recently had a situation in the recruitment space where AI doing its best as part of screening and identifying candidates that will be most suitable for the job, obviously was designed in a way to rule out certain demographics, to the extent of where we had zero female representation in there, right? Now, what is your thought around the bias that comes with using AI in, for example, a sphere of recruitment?
Yeah, I think also to latch on to your earlier point, right? Humans, we have our own experiences and we also have our own unconscious biases, right? Just because of how we grew up, where we grew up, stereotypes we've learned seeing on TV or whatever society has said. And I think for me, that's an important thing to be mindful of, especially when you're creating tools that literally are a part of our lives and a part of shaping our society. And hence, to my earlier point, it is so important, and why we exist, to make sure that young women in general, are part of this industry. They are part of the rooms where sort of software and all of these things are being built, because they would have been easily able to say, hang on, guys, look at our data and what it's saying, because obviously the people that looked at it saw nothing wrong, and potentially because they were all coming from the same perspective. So having different voices is exactly what we mean by representation and diversity. But somebody else could have said, hold on, I think this data, is not fully representative and could potentially do X, Y, and Z. So it's something that I'm heavily passionate about and advocate for. And we're starting to see change, right? We're starting to see also organizations being really purposeful and intentional about making sure that whatever they're putting out there, especially when you're talking about software that is changing or could change people's lives, that they're really thinking about how it gets built and who is in the room when it gets built. Of course, we have a long way to go, but I think, like a lot of strides are being made in that front. And again, like we just want women to be a part of those decisions. Yeah.
I hear you, because at the end of the day, it is a case of how are we using it?
Yes.
How are we using it? I think it keeps coming back down to that. It's not going to solve all of our problems just yet, but it certainly will be able to help us solve some of those things. Yeah. To the extent of where we can almost get them to do the entry level pieces of it, and where we focus on the high value tasks, the more complicated elements. And I think that's wonderful from the perspective of being able to bring about task variety for our people, right? I know in the corporate space, ensuring that a team member remains engaged is absolutely critical to how exciting their job, their day-to-day functions actually look like. And if we're able to have an AI that can take away some of that general mundane sort of pieces out, where they can now step into a space of where they've got a little bit more exciting work to do, that's certainly going to keep them engaged on that. 100%. Now, I'd like to wrap up quickly. And obviously for our listeners, what would be 2 or 3 takeaways from today that you would want to share with us?
I think the first one, embrace AI, embrace technology in general. It doesn't really matter what industry you're in. It's going to be a part of all industries, right? So you can't sit and say, oh, well, I'm in the health industry. It has nothing to do with me. It absolutely does. Like it has, it's going to impact everybody. So embrace it. And embracing it doesn't necessarily mean you must deep dive and, understand all its complexities, but at the very least understand how it's going to impact the industry that you're in and your particular role. And once you've done that, then it's like, think about how you innovate. And I know innovation, when you talk about innovation, people tend to think that's like huge, system change type of innovation. It doesn't have to be. It can be innovation within your space, within what you are doing, right? So I'd like to encourage people to think about that and things that frustrate them. How do I then use all this technology, all this AI that's now suddenly available to me to then create something new, something that can help already the work that I'm doing? So those are like my two takeaways. And I think it's almost a call to action. Like go out there, find out there's so many tools out there, so many AI tools that are now available, and find out like what works for you and what can also make you better at your job, right? We all want to show up to the best of our ability, and AI can definitely help you do that.
Yeah. That speaks to the fear element, right? Because the more we know about something, the better it is or the easier it is for us to adopt it and actually 100%. Start making use of it. So that's fantastic. We're on to our Women Crush Wednesday. So who is your Women Crush Wednesday?
Well, since we've been talking about AI and, of course, ChatGPT, I'm going to have to go with Mira Murati, who is the CTO of OpenAI, which is the startup behind ChatGPT. I think she's phenomenal, being an engineer herself, and what they've been able to bring into the world, right? It's true innovation. It's kind of gotten us onto this sort of new path, and it's exciting to see a woman being behind that as well. Yeah. And yours? Who's your Women Crush Wednesday?
So mine is Dr. Merritt Moore. She's a quantum physicist and a professional ballet dancer.
Okay.
And the reason why I find her so inspirational is the fact that she's been able to successfully blend art, creative side, as well as technology. Now, it started when we were working through this COVID pandemic. And as a ballet dancer, she had quite a lot of shows that she needed to perform in. But she didn't have the opportunity to be able to dance with a proper human ballet partner.
Yes, because COVID.
Of course, she then adopted the use of a robot. So she danced this entire routine with a robot. Yeah, and I think the real question there is to actually ask, like, would you call that robot a ballet dancer?
Interesting.
So that was, yes, I thought that was absolutely incredible.
No, definitely. It makes you think, right? Like, will robots be part of humans, or will humans be part of robots in the future? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Well, that's all we've got time for today. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode where we talk about...
I think money is a good topic. We're going into June. So I was just thinking, obviously, with June being youth month as well, you know, the youth trying to get jobs, salaries is quite a big discussion when you're getting your first job. And I thought, you know, that would be quite relevant for our Girlcoders as well, who are stepping into their first jobs this year. How do you talk about salaries? How do you negotiate? How do you negotiate for bonuses? I think that could be interesting.
I agree. It's that time of year where, for us as well, you know, we'd be looking at salary increases, you know, and whether you're a new person coming on board or whether you're actually someone who's already here, how do you advocate for yourself based on what you have put in over the last year, you know, and not necessarily just settle for a standard increase.
Yeah.
So that's a good topic. Thank you, Zandile. Really looking forward to that one. Don't forget to follow, like, share, and engage with us on social media, and we will see you soon.